All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash, double honors unto the apostles and elders of the great millstone who rule well, and salutations and much love to you sincere brothers pushing the word of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai throughout the four corners of the globe. To Ma'ah, Arabai, Alap, that's to say 144,000 in the Lashawan Kodash. Shalom to you as well. That's what we're striving to be that number, 144,000. All right, so I want to get into this article that's from, as you see here, Democrats budget.house.gov. And it says House Committee on the Budget. All right, now this is I remember one of Apostle Tahar's recent videos. He mentioned Trump hating, pretty much wanting to do away with the poor and the middle class. And really, Trump, hates poor people. Okay. And they're trying to do away with the poor and the middle class. You see that Donald Trump has pretty much let the dogs out on the homeless out there in D.C. to where they're sweeping them up and pretty much putting them in concentration camps, holding facilities. All right, which is completely unjust. You don't house these people. These people are, a lot of them, legitimately homeless, due to unforeseen circumstances that those people have to, have had to go through. A lot of it might be drug-induced homelessness, things of that nature. But you do have legitimate people suffering from being homeless that now have to be housed in a facility against their will. Okay, and that's just gonna snowball to all these major U.S. cities eventually. All right, which is part of martial law, part of Jacob's trouble, so on and so forth. So getting to this article, they call it the big ugly law. All right, because you had Trump calling it the big beautiful bill. So in this article, they call it Trump's big ugly law. Okay, so it says Trump's big ugly law steals from the poor to give to the ultra rich. All right, not just the rich, the ultra rich is who's profiting from these bills that Donald Trump is enacting or passing. Okay. It says President Trump's big ugly law kicks more than 15 million people off their health insurance, makes the largest cuts to nutrition assistance in history, and makes higher education less affordable. Why? To pay for tax cuts that overwhelmingly benefit the ultra rich. Okay? You got people getting booted off welfare, Section 8, so on and so forth. All right, and mind you, all these things are evidence and proof of depopulation. All right, you got to remember that a lot of people is got that taco sauce in them. All right, that juicy juice, and are dropping dead. People are still dropping dead as a result of taking that juice. Okay, so you got a lot of old heads that are ain't gonna be collecting Social Security and pensions. So that is money that's pretty much freed up that can help assist these ultra rich with tax cuts, things of that nature. All right. So it says nonpartisan analysis from the Congressional Budget Office, or the CBO, the Joint Committee on Taxation, JCT, shows that the bill worsens inequality. All right, because in America you already have inequality. All right, on a substantial level. All right, America tries to um, condemn these other nations for its inequality. However, it's hypocritical because America suffers from great inequality. Okay, so it says gives the ultra rich a historic tax break and makes working people worse off, adding insult to injury when including the cost of debt service. CBO finds that this bill adds over $4 trillion to the national debt. All right, and the national debt is already through the roof, but because these ultra rich, are greedy and stingy, um, they have no problem with adding to the national debt. Okay. Uh, so this is just a little graph. It says average annual change in household resources 2026 through 2034. And Abaratazar, we ain't hearing no goddamn 2034. All right. Let alone 2036 or 2026. Uh, may the Lord return soon. All right. Yesterday, if possible. It says CBO analyzed the combined effects of the tax policies and spending reductions and found that working families will experience a net loss in household resources while the ultra rich will get richer specifically. All right. So with this, this tax cut, the rich are getting rich and the poor are getting poor. And here are some examples. It says families will actually. Before I get there, let me read the scripture. Let me read the precept. Hold up. All right. Now this is a Deuteronomy 15. Now this is dealing with the Israelites. All right. Um, this is how we dealt with the poor of our people. Okay, and if this actually, Babylon the Great supposedly is a uh, God-fearing country, or at least paraded itself as that at one point in time. But this was never, this law was never kept like that. Okay. It says Deuteronomy 15:7. It says, if there be any among you, if there be among you a poor man of one of thy brethren within any of thy gates in thy land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not harden thine heart nor shut thine hand from the poor, from thy poor brother. It says, but thou shalt open thine hand wide unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wanteth. Beware that there be not a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, the seventh year, the year of release, is at hand, and thine eye be evil against thy brother, and thou givest him not, and he cry unto Yahweh against thee, and it be sin unto thee. Thou shalt surely give him, and thine heart shall not be grieved when thou givest unto him, because that for this thing the Lord Yahweh thy power shall bless thee in all thy works, and in all that thou puttest thy hand unto. Okay? For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt open thine hand wide unto thy brother and thy poor, and to thy needy in the land, in thy land. Okay, so we're always, it's a balance, man. Okay, dealing with civilization and a city and people and family and whatnot. It's always a balance. You always have people that are well off, and you have poor. All right, and like the scripture says, you're always going to have the poor. So, that's just a realization. Okay, so if If you are in a situation to be able to help the poor, as an Israelite, that's what you are supposed to do. Okay. Now, once again, this was dealing with us, the Israelites. Now, once again, as I just said, you had, Babylon the Great saying that it was a God-fearing country, but they never kept this law here. Okay, because really, we should be able to go to the ultra rich and let them know, hey, look, I need this, and this. And they're supposed to give it to us, but they ain't gonna do that. Okay. So continuing on, it says families already struggling to make ends meet lose the most. Households and the lowest income decile, which is a tenth. It says making 24,000 a year or less lose about 1,200 every year. $1,200 every year, mostly due to deep cuts to Medicaid and food assistance. That amount is over 3% of their total income, a devastating hit for people who can afford it the least. It says everyone in the bottom 20% of the income distribution, or those making less than $43,000 a year, will see a net decline in household resources. Middle class families get next to nothing. For those in the fifth and sixth decile, or the middle of the distribution, they will experience a resource gain of only 0.8 to 1%. That is barely enough to keep up with rising costs due to President Trump's reckless actions. It says the ultra rich get a windfall. Families making over $700,000 a year will see a $13,600 boost almost entirely from tax cuts. That figure does not even count the massive estate tax giveaways for the ultra rich. Let me see. It says that figure does not even count the massive estate tax giveaways for the ultra rich. Okay. Let me grab another precept, and then I'll get back to that article. So this is Proverbs 22:16. It says, "He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want." All right, and that's why the Lord is going to put a plug on this whole damn system, to where these one thing I always say, amongst brothers, I labor with, I've said it a lot in the past, is I can't wait till the playing field levels out, because there's going to come a point when the resources and the riches and the wealth that the rich have is going to be meaningless, because they're going to be the target. Everybody, when society collapses, everybody is going to be targeting those they know that have it. Meanwhile, the poor, or in particular, the men of the Lord, is going to be all right. It's going to eat. We ain't going to be on this side. We ain't put here to accumulate riches and wealth, that these people of the real have. Okay, we're simply here as pilgrims. All right. And when we get to the kingdom of heaven, that's when it's going to be time to ball out and all that. But just having food, raiment, okay, a roof over your head is more than you can ask for. All right. So once again, it says, "He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches." All right, and that's initially what that so-called big beautiful bill is doing. It's oppressing the poor to increase the riches of the super rich. Okay? And he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. All right? And then I'm going to jump down to verse 22. It says, rob not the poor because he is poor, neither oppress the afflicted in the gate. And that's initially what let me read 22 in the NLT. It says, don't rob the poor just because you can, or exploit the needy in court. Okay? All right, so rob not the poor because he is poor. That's initially what this administration is doing. They're robbing the poor because they can get away with it. All right, and you ain't supposed to do that, man. These is all signs of Esau's decline and the inevitable destruction of Babylon the Great, man. Being that you got a poor population of people, or a majority of the population in your country is below the poverty line, or just barely hovering around that mug, living paycheck to paycheck, and you are consistently stealing from them, making life harder for them. All right, that shows that the prosperity and the income is ceasing. This place ain't flourishing with uh, profit like it used to. You used to back in the days just walk down the street and find money, $10, $5, $20. You don't find money on the streets no more. You know what I'm saying? Verse 23, it says, for the Lord Yahweh will plead their cause and spoil the soul of those that spoiled them. All right, so Esau's about to be spoiled, man. All these rich bastards sitting up in lofty places and just mocking the poor and laughing. And, man, the Lord got something for him, man. Got something for him. All right, the Lord's about to spoil everything that these rich individuals have pretty much stolen, because they stole everything they got. All right. So continuing on, it says the big ugly law gives the ultra rich a massive tax cut. It says JCT separately estimated the distributional effects of only the tax provisions in the bill. They found that working class people get no tax cut, and in some cases a tax increase, while the ultra rich get tens of thousands in tax cuts a year specifically. An average household making less than $15,000 a year will see a tax increase of 9% in 2027. That's ridiculous, man. One, to be making only 15,000. Man, to have a family surviving off of $15,000 a year is crazy. That's nothing. That is nothing. That's you're dirt poor. Okay? It says by 2033, when many temporary provisions in the tax portion of the law expire, this group will experience a 56% tax increase, which is crazy. All right? It says while people earning $40,000 a year will see an average tax decrease of only $393, worth a few weeks of groceries, people making over $1 million a year will see their taxes go down by $97,000 in 2027. It's crazy that you got people that make $15,000 a year or less, right? And then you have people that make well over that, over $1 million a year, and their taxes is going to decrease more than what these poor people make a year, man. All right, that's ridiculous, man. That's ridiculous. All right, continuing on. It says the big ugly law sets a new precedent for wealth transfers to the ultra rich. It says in 2017, Trump and the Republicans passed the so-called Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, a historically bad bill which increased the deficit by $1.9 trillion. All right. So they contributed to the national debt by 1.9 trillion back in 2017. It says that bill gave massive handouts to the ultra rich, but the big ugly the big ugly law makes the 2017 tax breaks for the richest few look small by comparison, while exploding the deficit by more than twice as much. The TCJA gave people making over $500,000 a year an average tax cut of $35,000 the first year after enactment. By comparison, the big ugly law will give people making over $500,000 a year a tax cut of $47,000 in the first year alone. The TCJA transferred a total of $36.9 billion to people making over $1 million a year in just the first year after the bill was enacted. The new bill will more than double that number, giving people making over $1 million a year $114 billion in tax cuts for 2027 alone. While the TCJA worsened inequality, it gave very modest tax cuts around $20 a year to the lowest income earners. This is so hilarious, man. Salakia, man. It says a big ugly law will ask the lowest earners to to pay higher taxes every year. Oh man, this is comical, man. Because the reason it's so funny is because brothers, we don't have our spirits and souls invested in this system, man. So you got to imagine all the people that have read this article that have their soul just invested in America, and this is like heartbreaking to them, to where they bugging out, man. A lot of people send themselves back to the spirit world based upon stuff like this, man. But for us, we laugh at this shit, because this is not sustainable, man. All right, it's comical. It's not sustainable. It's a big shit show, and the Lord is about to flush the toilet bowl. All right, the toilet bowl being America. Okay. Lastly, it says because this bill is coupled with draconian spending cuts that intentionally target working Americans on net, the bill is even crueler and more unequal than TCJA. Okay, so there you have it, man. Unrighteous, man. Completely unrighteous. Next precept. This is Proverbs 29 and 7. It says, "The righteous considereth the cause of the poor, but the wicked regardeth not to know it." Okay, so the cause of the poor, really is these damn low-paying jobs, man. Okay, the fact that America doesn't manufacture and distribute anything of value, all right, that the rest of the world sees as value. The other nations produce things and distribute things around the world that other nations find value in, but America doesn't have anything, no industrial sector, so to say, that produces uh, valuable uh, tools, valuable goods, valuable anything of value that is needful or useful uh, to be utilized by other nations. By other nations. America doesn't have that, man. Okay, so these jobs, a lack of jobs, and then low paying jobs all contribute to poverty, homelessness, people going hungry, you know. So a righteous person, a righteous king or a president, so to say, all right, um, would consider that and actually make changes to help that, you know. But Esau, he don't give a shit. He don't regard it. You bring that up, whatever, whatever.
Look, we got a big beautiful bill. It's gonna make everything all right. It's gonna be less taxes you're gonna have to pay.
Just a bunch of lies, man. Okay, the wicked don't give a shit, man. Esau does not give a shit that his own people is suffering and poor and needy and destitute. All right, Esau's the devil, man. All right, so Rock 13 and 18 through 20. It says, what agreement is there between the hyena and a dog? All right, you take a pit bull and take him to the zoo and let him see a hyena and let him go inside the hyena cage. It's going to be funk on sight. All right, they ain't about to, be playing with each other. Okay? It says, and what peace between the rich and the poor? Okay, because you're always going to have the poor going to the rich like, hey, man, we need some of that, man. All right, we need some money. That's always going to be the case with the rich and the poor because the rich have the resources, they have the money, they have the wealth, and the poor have to go to them for that. All right? The rich put all these stipulations and laws in place to where, you can't collect rainwater, you can't have fruit trees and gardens and there's a bunch of restrictions. Okay, let alone the soil is completely just void of nutrients. Right, so the rich is, hey man, some real assholes, man. Okay, verse 19 it says, and the wild ass is the lion's prey in the wilderness, so the rich eat up the poor. Okay, so just you might have a wild donkey in the wilderness, and it's a lion stalking them, and that's just what it is. Okay, so that's how the rich eat up the poor, just lurking and just targeting the poor at will, man, just because they can do it. Okay. It says, as the proud hate humility, so doth the rich abhor the poor, which is why nothing will ever change in this society. The rich are going to continue to get rich, and the poor is going to continue to be shitted on. All right? Nothing is ever going to change. The only time it's going to change is the kingdom of heaven for us Israelites. All right? Now, you heathens, y'all gonna have to deal with the curses like we've dealt with the curses. Okay. Real quick, let me see. 13 and 18. 13, 20. 31, 3. All right. This will be my last precept, 3 and 4. Sirach 31 and 3, it says, the rich hath great labor in gathering riches together, and when he resteth, he is filled with his delicates. All right. So these rich do a lot of dirt to acquire what they've acquired, to steal what they've stolen, so on and so forth. You know, and they live a affluent life, affluent lifestyle, and you know, they got it. All right. Verse 4, it says, the poor laboreth in his poor estate, and when he leaveth off, he is still needy. You know, you working a 9 to 5, you scraping together crumbs, making ends meet, and you still, once you pay your bills and all that, you still freaking poor as hell, man. You know, that's due to America being a completely unjust system, an unjust country. All right. And really the whole world is moving toward everybody being dirt poor except for the elites of those societies. Every country has its elite, and those are the people that they think they're being put in position to pretty much rule over the poor for all eternity. But hey, the Lord got a surprise for their ass, man, and that surprise is gonna be thermonuclear destructions. Destruction, not destructions, but well, you can't say destructions because it's gonna be various countries getting pelted with ICBM missiles. But that pretty much concludes the lesson. The rich versus the poor, man. Classism. The rich versus the poor. All right. So Alvarez, this was an edifying lesson. Till next time, I say shalom.